Sophie, thank you. Hello, good evening. Welcome to Thursday's edition of Look North. Our top story tonight. How a 2-month delay in checks for a criminal record forced this woman to claim benefit despite being offered work.
I want to work. I don't want to be sat at home, and to the point now I've exhausted most of my savings, so I've had to claim job seekers allowance, which is something I never thought I'd do.
The Disclosure and Barring Service says it's working hard to keep waits for DBS checks to a minimum. Also tonight, find out how this record-breaking dinosaur print from around 166 million years ago was found in North Yorkshire. Can Warnock work a miracle? The new Huddersfield town manager gives his first interview on his return to the John Smiths. And what goes on in the bowels of our sewer system? An exhibition of the more unusual objects flushed down the pan.
And we're expecting a very windy spell of weather later tonight and through tomorrow morning's rush hour with the risk of gales or severe gales. I'll be back later with the very latest.
Hello, thank you for watching. First tonight, the delays in the processing of DBS checks, which are leaving people unable to take up offers of work. The government's Disclosure and Barring Service check shows potential employers if someone has a criminal record. And a lot of jobs like teaching, nursing and working with children in particular require them. However, one woman from North Derbyshire got in touch with us after waiting 2 months for hers to be processed, during which time she'd been offered a job but had to claim benefit to make ends meet. David Rhodes takes up her story.
If you work with children or vulnerable adults, in most professions it's now mandatory that you must go through what is known as a DBS check. The process identifies people with a criminal record and usually takes no more than 2 weeks.
I want to work. I don't want to be sat at home, and to the point now I've exhausted most of my savings, so I've had to claim job seekers allowance, which is something I never thought I'd do.
For Hannah, who's unemployed, she's been left waiting over 2 months for the government to process her DBS check.
Every morning, fire up the laptop, check it, and then every night, when they should have finished, check it in the hopes that something will have been done, and it just keeps saying in progress. And it's just so frustrating. That one little thing is stopping me starting the next stage of my working life.
Hannah has been offered a new job in local government, but she can't start until she has her DBS check. In recent months, there have been reports of taxi drivers, health workers and other professionals experiencing similar delays.
Just heard that people have had to wait in the teaching profession, not necessarily teachers, but in that profession, 6 weeks to get a DBS check. I mean, they're saying that people are crying out for people, but they can't get them in position.
A DBS check is a record of a person.
There is no clarity on what may be causing delays. Late last year, there were a number of strikes involving workers employed in the DBS process. The government highlights, though, this is a service with a growing workload. There is a growing vigilance around people working with children and vulnerable adults, and that's why the number of DBS checks being carried out has been rising steadily for years. The Home Office has told Look North that in January alone it processed over 600,000 DBS checks. A Home Office spokesperson added that the Disclosure and Barring Service is committed to providing fast and accurate services to our customers. On occasion, some applications can take longer than others as part of the rigorous and essential background checking process. The government highlights last month it took on average 12.5 days to process an enhanced DBS check. For Hannah, though, she has no idea when her application will be completed. David Rhodes, BBC Look North, North Derbyshire.
Next tonight, a campaign's been launched to stop cuts to bus services across our region. An open letter to the Prime Minister, the Chancellor and the Department for Transport's been signed by 2 of our bishops, which says ending the bus recovery grant would devastate local communities. Reports from bus operators show yet more services could be axed next month when the grant, which was launched during the pandemic, is axed. Well, earlier I spoke to the Bishop of Selby, the Right Reverend Dr. John Thompson, and I began by asking him why he was supporting the campaign.
The area that I keep watch over is predominantly rural, and that is where many of our bus services are already very precarious and modest. And I'm aware that people trying to get to work or get around or find access to services are dependent increasingly on cars. I'm also, as it happens, one of the Green Bishops of the Church of England, and we're working on a net zero carbon agenda, which includes reducing our travel and its carbon impact. And so buses I see as part of the solution to that. But obviously living here in Selby area and aware of some of the poorer communities, both in the town and in the rural areas, bus services are very important for people with limited means. And what's been great about the bus recovery grant has been the reduction in the cost of bus travel. The removal of that grant will put the bus costs back up again. And I know for myself, it's £6.40 to get from Selby to York and back under the old system. And if you're somebody in some of our poorer communities trying to go and visit a relative in hospital in York, maybe once or twice a week, that's a pretty high cost.
What sort of impact will withdrawal of this grant have on your parishioners, if you like to put it that way?
Well, that will vary from groups of people, and different people will find that more challenging. But it will mean that people will have to pay more to get around. And I'm particularly concerned in the rural areas for young people, because young people need access to jobs. They need to be able to get to towns to be able to get shopping. And I'm also concerned about older people who need access to care services and so on. And the buses can be very important in that. And if these become more precarious and less available, then that puts particular pressure on folk like that. As you know, the Church of England's here not just for those who turn up for church, but for everybody in the area. And so we want to get our backing onto this programme to try and make it easier for people to have access to jobs, to services, to social engagement that builds fruitfulness. And we know already in rural areas that isolation is a particular challenge. And so having better bus facilities would aid that and make it easier for people without cars to get to what they need to do and to where they need to go.
Briefly, Bishop, what would you like to see the government do?
Well, I think it'd be great if they would consider cancelling the bus cuts in March and then work up a new deal for buses with more powers and funding for local communities to be able to make the judgments that decide where the best bus routes and facilities can be. And that, I think, will help us to grow an extensive, reliable and affordable bus service that will be a benefit to all of us, help to reduce our climate footprint, our carbon footprint, I should say, and also enable people to take advantage of the economic opportunities that are around, but which some are finding difficult to access.
Dr. John Thompson, Bishop of Selby, thank you so much for your time today. A Department for Transport spokesman told us that £2 billion has been invested in bus routes. Single tickets have also been capped at £2 and more than £1 billion allocated to improve bus services across England. They're also working closely with the sector on how best to support operators with the challenges they face. You're watching Thursday's Look North. Still to come on tonight's programme. Come and work with us. Police in North Yorkshire taking on more staff in the force control room. OK, let's get some news in brief. Emergency services were called to an incident at Ponds Forge swimming pool in Sheffield this morning. The BBC understands that a girl was pulled from the water by lifeguards and was taken to hospital. The pool was closed today as a result. Police investigating the fatal stabbing of a man in Hare Hills in Leeds have made an arrest. 27-year-old Danico Ferguson was found injured on Compton Road in the early hours of Wednesday and died in hospital. An 18-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder. Police are appealing for witnesses and CCTV or dash cam footage. A woman charged with the attempted murder of 3 young children in Huddersfield is due to appear in court later this month. A 3-month-old baby boy, a 2-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl were found with serious stab injuries at a house last week. Today, police said a woman who's 34 appeared before magistrates on Monday and is due before Leeds Crown Court on the 21st of February. University staff in Leeds, Sheffield, York, Hull, Huddersfield and Bradford were on strike for a 3rd time today. It's part of what's set to be the biggest series of strikes to hit the UK universities in an ongoing row over pay, contracts and pensions. The University and College Union turned down a pay rise offer in January. North Yorkshire Police has launched a new recruitment campaign for more people to answer emergency calls. It's the first point of contact for anyone dialling 999 or 101 asking for help. The police say increased demand means they need more staff to answer calls quicker. Beth Parsons takes up the story.
You sit there in your ready status and you're nervous and you've had 4 weeks of training and you're panicking because you're like, what if I just freeze? That was my main fear, is that I'd say police emergency, they'd start saying something and I just wouldn't know what to do.
Sam's in training to become a call handler with North Yorkshire Police.
I've been on the other end of the phone before, having to phone the police, and it's the worst day of your life. And I still remember the person on the other end of the phone being so kind and caring and just helping. And then something came up on Facebook, I saw there was a job opportunity and I thought, well, why not? I might as well go for it, and here I am.
This force control room in York receives more than 1,000 calls every 24 hours, and around 300 of them are people dialing 999.
So the first thing that the call goes through is to the BT answering service to ask which emergency service that you require. If you say police, the very next thing to do is to connect you to our North Yorkshire Police phone line. The next thing you will hear is a North Yorkshire call handler say, police emergency.
999 police emergency.
North Yorkshire Police say they're receiving more calls, and they're currently looking for more people to get trained up to answer the phones.
If we are dealing with a call and we physically don't have enough people to answer the next one, then sadly the person who's waiting to get through is sat on hold ultimately, and we're not giving that service to the public. We never know what the next call might be. It might be a road being blocked, but it might be someone that's in an emergency situation that requires an officer to attend.
Is it a hard job at times?
It's a very responsible job, but it is equally a very rewarding job too. So we could be taking calls about almost anything. So it could be something that's not a police matter, but it could be anything from a road traffic collision where there are serious injuries through to antisocial behaviour.
This is the first call handler class of 2023, and these are a couple of their new recruits.
Knowing that you're actually making a difference to someone else's life and that you are helping people, and just sort of being that person for someone, and being that person for lots of people all day, every day. It's quite a nice feeling.
The first 4 weeks we did classroom-based training, learning the systems, learning how North Yorkshire Police work and how to handle calls and how to speak on the phone, take stuff properly, the different types of calls that you're expected to receive. From week 5 we went on to shift patterns and started taking live calls.
There are more than 600,000 people living in North Yorkshire, and any of them could need to make an emergency call at any second. They need more people to answer those calls. Beth Parsons, BBC Look North, York.
And staying with policing, if Labour get into power, they're promising increased neighbourhood patrols by law from the Shadow Home Secretary. Latest figures have revealed crime in West Yorkshire rose by 17% in a year. The Normanton, Pontefract and Castleford MP, Yvette Cooper, says Labour wants to tackle things like knife crime and antisocial behaviour.
Well, across the country, we have seen rising antisocial behaviour in town centres and growing levels of serious knife crime, and yet the neighbourhood policing that should be about preventing those kinds of crimes and tackling them has too often been cut back. Labour's determined to turn that round, and that's why we will deliver 13,000 more neighbourhood police and PCSOs, and also introduce a neighbourhood policing guarantee to make sure that that happens in practice.
Now, if you go down to the beach today, you could be in for a surprise, and it could be prehistoric. It's been revealed that the largest dinosaur print ever has been found in Yorkshire. It was discovered by a local archaeologist while she was collecting shellfish on Burniston Bay near Scarborough. And it's thought the record-breaking print could be 166 million years old. Marie Woods made the discovery, and I asked her when she realised the magnitude of what she'd found.
Well, I've been out a few times with friends and seen smaller ones, but I've never seen anything in terms of the size of this before. And I think it kind of really came home when John and Dean have been studying it in the stores at the Rotunda Museum.
When you came across it, though, did you appreciate the magnificence of it, the impact of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not every day that you come across, half a metre length dinosaur footprint. The ones that I've come across have probably barely been even 15 centimetres. So, yeah, this is quite staggering, really.
Yeah, obviously, as an archaeologist, you had a bit of an idea. I know scientists have said this as an extraordinarily important find. This is what one paleontologist had to tell us.
This find is incredibly significant, especially for the Yorkshire coast. So the Yorkshire coast is known for its many, many dinosaur footprints, thousands and thousands of dinosaur footprints, but this is by far the largest and most interesting footprint made by one of these big meat-eating dinosaurs from the Jurassic.
That's Dr. Dean Lomax, who I know you know from the University of Manchester. You mentioned him just a second or two ago. Do we know what beast this was? What more can you tell us about who made that footprint?
So John and Dean, under study, they've basically said that it's a Megalosaurus type dinosaur. I think the closest that kind of comes to mind when I think about it is it's kind of like a T-Rex, but nowhere near as big. And obviously T-Rexes are in America rather than the UK. But if you think of a very large meat-eating dinosaur, similar to that.
Yeah, quite a scary beast, I imagine. Now, the good news is this specimen, I believe, is staying local, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So the initial finder, Rob Taylor, we've both jointly donated the artefact to the Scarborough Museums and Galleries. It's going to be undergoing a series of conservation works later in the year and will hopefully be on display in the near future.
That sounds really exciting. What about you? Will you continue fossil hunting on the Yorkshire coast?
No, I think I'm going to stick to my archaeology. It's a safer bet for me.
Well, you've done really well. Thank you for your time today, and congratulations on the find once again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it really is quite a find, isn't it? Now, last night's football saw Sheffield United beaten 3-1 at home to Middlesbrough. And Huddersfield Town also conceded 3 away goals to Stoke City, leaving them 4 points adrift of safety. But Town fans are hoping for a miracle in the shape of the return of Neil Warnock, who gave his first press conference just over an hour or so ago. Well, Oggy joins us live now from Huddersfield's training ground where it all took place, and it seemed, Oggy, as if the world's media had gathered there. I watched the presser, and I have to say it was littered with typical Neil Warnock humour, wasn't it?
Neil Warnock addressed the media for more than an hour this afternoon here at the media facility at the training ground. An absolute masterclass of Neil Warnockisms with his humour and his candour. He admitted many things, Phil, not least that he's probably addicted to football management. Why else would he take a job like this with just 15 matches left to save Huddersfield Town from relegation? Even Warnock said he must be a glutton for punishment to take this.
I think they're great fixtures, you know. I mean, you look at the fixtures and you must be a bloody idiot to want to come here to end the season. Fortunately, that's what I am, really. So it's it doesn't, you know, you look at the games and, you know, I look at the top 3 teams all to play, you know, Burnley, Middlesbrough, my old team, and Sheffield United. You know, they're great games, really. So it's something that I'm looking forward to it. It's as I said to the lads today, all I expect is that they give me 100%. They listen to what I want them to do in training, and that they go home knowing they couldn't give any more every day in training. You know, and that's what I want, really. I want the fans to know that they're doing that. In the circumstances with the fans, I'm sure they will get behind me as well, really, and I think they'll be quite relieved as well. So it's I'm looking forward to Saturday. It'll be, you know, a difficult game. You know, I saw West Brom. I saw them beat West Brom quite comfortable, and then we've got a nice easy trip to Burnley, haven't we? I've got an idea what I want to do on Saturday, which will probably surprise a few people. Whether that comes off, but I'm nothing to lose, have I? Yeah. Nothing to lose. I've seen the players' priority. You know, I said to the players today, I'm sorry I couldn't have been at the other night with you at Stoke because, but you know, I was in a jazz club in New York and it was a better evening. It was a really good night.
I heard a podcast that you were on recently, and you said in it that you knew within 90 minutes, and walking into a football club, you knew who was going to be in the trenches with you going into battle. It feels like a battle that's on the horizon.
Yes, it is. I won't know really in that respect till next week because we can't really have a proper training session. I mean, next weekend will be a free hit, won't it? Burnley away. So we'll have a couple of sessions and I'll get to know more about it then. But it's been, I enjoyed the chat today. You know, really responsive, and as I've said, I've got my own ideas from the outside what I want to do this week, and then onto the training ground next week. You know, it'll be emotional. I'm not saying it won't. It was when I came up, and in this particular case, they all want me to do well because they don't like seeing the team like it is. You know, the performances have not been good enough, really, and I always found that Huddersfield people, if they see lads giving everything, then they can forgive them a few faults. It's when they don't see him, you know, to be wearing that shirt with pride, and that's what I've said to the players. I want them every day in training to give the best, and then in a match give the best. Not a lot to ask, and quite simply, if they don't give the best, they won't be playing.
Neil Warnock speaking to the media gathered here at Huddersfield Town's training ground today about a job which is very similar to the one he took on and was very successful in at Rotherham United back in 2016. Millers fans, you'll remember him saving the Millers from relegation with 16 matches left to play. Other things we've learnt today: Neil Warnock loves Twitter but still hasn't quite worked out what TikTok is. The Warnock whirlwind has swept already through Huddersfield Town today and continues in his first game in charge against Birmingham on Saturday.
Sounds like a man after my own heart, Oggy. Thank you so much, Oggy, there live in Huddersfield. We'll stay on sport because the Super League season gets underway tonight with Leeds Rhinos travelling to Warrington. Last year, a whirlwind season for the Rhinos, from fighting relegation to a playoff finish to making it to the grand final. Head coach Rohan Smith has had the winter to work with the team, and despite the grand final loss, there's a lot of momentum behind them.
As a coach, we're always hopeful it's going to be fluid, but I also understand rugby league's not a game of being pretty all the time. Being able to grind it and work hard and battle is equally as important as being fluent and flowing. So, you know, we're hoping to have a good blend of that. But number one, we've got to compete and we've got to be physical.
You'll be able to hear full coverage of the opening match on West Yorkshire Sport on BBC Radio Leeds from 7 o'clock tonight. Now to a story that you could say has been in the pipeline for some time. A new exhibition has gone on display which shows some rather distasteful toilet habits. Well, would you expect to find a frying pan in a sewer? Well, Yorkshire Water have, among other strange objects, which have gone down the drain. Kathy Killick has been to see the show, and you could call it perhaps the job of the day.
Beneath the impressive roof of Trinity Leeds, a pop-up art exhibition that really goes back to basics. In the glass cases, what the art world would call objets trouvés. That is, things that have been found, not in rubbish dumps or skips, but in our sewers. It's quite the spectacle.
We've got boots, we've got a frying pan, believe it or not, we've even got a football and a Peppa Pig. So they're all genuine things we've found in unfortunately, the sewer network over the last few months.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever found?
Wow, I think we've had, believe it or not, on some of our larger network, we had part of a bicycle, believe it or not, and managed to somehow get itself into the network, yeah.
Our sewers are clogging up with things that shouldn't be there. Accumulations of fat and wet wipes are causing revolting blockages that Yorkshire Water want to eliminate. They hope their artistic mock-up makes people think, bin it, not block it.
About 46% of our blockages on our sewerage network are associated with wipes. So really here to educate our customers to say, please don't put them in the toilet, please put them in the bin.
To help get the message across, meet Wipeosaurus, on hand to teach children where wipes should go. And a chance to create your own art, a poster on what's welcome down the loo and what's not. Poo, pee and paper are allowed, elephants not so much.
I'm just surprised at the kind of things that you're finding in and amongst, like a huge boot and the amount of glasses, and I just can't imagine that people are actually getting rid of these in the drains.
I was bamboozled a bit, like, what's going on here? My kid, he just sort of stumbled upon Peppa Pig there, and I was wondering what was going on with that, but then we got told.
I know as a mom we've had many experiences of the wrong things going down the toilet, so I think it's great for them to learn.
You may think these poo-encrusted objects are a commentary on modern art. I couldn't possibly comment, but in fact there is more to them than meets the eye. or the nose, because they don't smell. And that's because they are all, in fact, replicas. The originals had to be destroyed for health and safety reasons. Free-flowing sewers ultimately help water companies keep sewage out of our rivers, so we've a lot to gain from doing the right thing by our lavatories. They need our help. Cathy Killick, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Thank you, Cathy. I'd just like to apologise if you're in the middle of your evening meal. I'm not sure how to follow that, Keely, apart from it may be a little bit windy over the next few days.
Thank you very much, Philip, yes. But you're absolutely right. The first named storm of the season, Storm Otto, named by the Danish Met Office, at the risk of gales or severe gales through tomorrow morning's rush hour. So more on that in a moment. Let's have a quick look at some of the pictures that have been coming in. Sunny skies over Scarborough, a lovely picture there. The second picture, rather erratic looking skies over Silsden today. And then more sombre skies, I think, over Cromwell's Plump in North Yorkshire this afternoon. You can keep your pictures coming in to the BBC Weather Watchers page, or you can tweet me, or I'm on Instagram too. So yes, we do have a very windy spell of weather later on tonight and first thing tomorrow morning, with the Met Office warning for gales or severe gales, so gusts 55 to 65 miles an hour, perhaps even touching 75 miles an hour. We're most concerned about Transpennine routes and also places to the east of high ground. The wind, though, will ease down through tomorrow afternoon. The weekend doesn't look as windy, some uncertainty still in details, but there looks to be quite a bit of cloud around, though still temperatures above average for the time of year. It's been rather cloudy today, only a few glimmers of brightness. This is the satellite picture from earlier on, and there's quite a lot of cloud out there at the moment. The cloud could produce some patchy rain and drizzle. It'll slip down onto the hills and perhaps a little further east at times overnight. But the main feature of the weather will be the wind. So that wind strengthening overnight with the risk of gales or severe gales by morning. And it'll be a mild night with temperatures down to around 8 or 9 degrees. A quick look at those high water times then, at 14 minutes past 1 in Filey and just gone 1 o'clock in Scarborough. So a very windy rush hour, also some damp weather, a lot of cloud, but quite quickly that cloud will slip away southwards and it'll brighten up nicely. After a very windy morning, that breeze, that wind slowly easing down from the west through the course of the afternoon. The highest temperatures, I think, will be through the first half of the day. By the afternoon, we'll be at around 10 or 11 degrees. 10 is 50 Fahrenheit. Looking further ahead into the weekend, there looks to be a lot of cloud. It'll still be relatively mild, particularly on Saturday. Not as windy as it has been. And then a mild start to the week, with those temperatures starting to fall away by the time we reach midweek. There you go, I nearly finished.
Sure about that? Do you want to have another go?
I'm on the late too. There's no hope,
yes,
is there?
We're both on late, so do join us at 10:30. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening from Keely and I. Have a good evening.